Thanks, Luke. Elizabeth Evans, please.
Thank you. Well, yes, Hugh, and I can reassure all of you that we are committed to keeping the bus pass. And regarding local transport, you more or less did say it actually. There's something called the rural bus subsidy, which goes to every local authority from the Assembly. Now, that's calculated on the amount of people in every county. Well, you can imagine the size of Ceredigion, and we've got 78,000 people here. Compare that to the size of Cardiff and Swansea, Anglesey. But the people, the county, who receives more subsidy, more money to run their bus services, rural bus services, is Swansea and Cardiff, because of the population. Now, that's a crazy, crazy thing. So what we're asking, obviously, is that the way that they calculate the bus subsidies that we get as councils, then it shouldn't go on population, it should go on need. And obviously the distance that it takes our residents in Ceredigion to travel from A to B. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm actually going to take comments afterwards briefly. So if I could ask Ellen to...
Yes, Plaid Cymru is committed to keeping the free bus pass for all the users who are able to use it and take advantage of it now. It's very important in terms of increasing the accessibility and use of the public transport that's available. Of course, the challenge is that not enough public transport is available, and especially in some of our more rural areas. The Assembly has now over the past few weeks said that it will introduce more booker bus services into those communities in the south of Ceredigion, where there are virtually no bus services, public transport services at the moment, and that will become available over the next few months. And also the Assembly is investing in Aberystwyth and the wider area around Aberystwyth to become what's called a sustainable travel town, which will improve the public services and the public bus services in particular in that area, in hopefully getting more people out of their cars and into bus services. But to do that, we need to have more routes and a more frequent service that's better timetabled. And in addition to that, obviously, of course, the investment in the bus station area in Aberystwyth, which isn't a particularly good place to be waiting for your bus to come along. So that bus station area in Aberystwyth will also be improved. But we do need, for several reasons, environmental reasons, but also access to services in rural areas, we need to be improving on the frequency, the timetabling, and the quality of the public bus services in rural areas. Yeah.
Thank you. Very quickly, any comments relating to the question? Yeah.
And I've been hearing from people I know in the council, others considering a tram system. Is that going ahead, or is that being talked about? Do you want?
Well, yeah. I think there are some councillors in Aberystwyth who are keen to develop a tram system in Aberystwyth. I think some of the county council staff and possibly councillors are not as keen on that, and they want to see development more in terms of buses. I think there was a presentation from a company, a tram company, that showed how practical it would be in Aberystwyth, and it could be a practical scheme in Aberystwyth. I would hope that if we get additional funding from the Assembly for Aberystwyth as a sustainable travel town, that the issue of a tram could be introduced into planning for Aberystwyth. But it will require quite a bit of money to do that. So, but I think that all of us here would probably quite like to see Aberystwyth with a tram system, because certainly in other cities, in places around Europe, then it works quite well, and it would work well for tourists and for residents in Aberystwyth. So yes, I fully support the development of that idea, but it is a long-term plan, I think, rather than something that can happen quickly.
Thank you. I'm going to have to move to the second question, which is Helen's going to ask. This is to do about paid employment, sorry.
I think I better stand up. I have work skills. Fi cael proffwydwaith and I want to work a fi eisiau gweithio. Beth wedi wneud I gwneud hawdd I fi to find paid employment.
Right. The question was that Helen has working skills and wants to work. What will you do to make it easier for her to find paid employment? We'll have Ellen, please.
Wel, diolch am y cwestiwn, ag wrth gwrs mae'n really bwysig fod ni yn rhoi cefnogaeth I bobl sydd eisiau gweld cyfleon ar gyfer gwaith, a gwaith yn lleol iddyn nhw. A dwi'n meddwl fod yn bwysig fod y sector gyhoeddus yn arwen ar hyn ac yn rhoi cyfle o fewn naill ai'r cyngor neu'r cynulliad neu y sector gyhoeddus yn gyffredinol yn yr ardal yma. It's really important that there is support given to people, younger people especially, who want to integrate into the workplace situation and to get work. I think the public sector needs to show leadership on this and to develop positions within the public sector that allow for people to integrate into the workplace environment and to get paid employment in the area. I think that the council, the assembly government and their offices in Aberystwyth do need to show some leadership on this, the university as well. And the schemes that are in place we'd want to develop further. Some of those schemes are of course coming from the Westminster government as well. So we need to focus on developing and working with the individual to see how individually tailored places of employment can be developed further. Felly, mae'n waith pwysig iawn I wneud ym mhob ardal yng Ngheredigion, a dwi'n credu fod yn rhywbeth mod eisiau rhoi fwy o flaenoriaeth I.
Just to mix things up a bit, Elizabeth, please.
Thank you. Well, yes, it's an important question, pwysig, Helen. I was sorry to see the Cadwynau programme finish, an excellent funding programme that got people with learning difficulties into work. And as Ellen said, there has to be a political will as well, and there has to be leadership from government regarding the placing of people with learning difficulties in employment, in the civil service. But also, if you think in France and in a lot of European countries, there's a legal requirement for every company to employ a quota, a certain amount of people with learning difficulties. And that's absolutely right, because you have a right to go out and work. You know, you've had your training, you've got your skills, and that's very, very important. But it has to come from government, and there has to be that political will for it to happen. And as I say, if we could just have even an enhanced Cadwynau programme again, which was so good and successful, and that's just another case of a funding project folding, whereas we need that long-term sustainability for people with learning difficulties in the workplace. Diolch.
Very quickly then, look Everett.
Okay, well, thanks very much. In many respects, I agree with Elizabeth entirely about that. And the whole tenet of conservatism is really to try and give more people more control over their lives. Now, the way I see it is that there are two. You've got the two sectors. You've got the public sector and you've got the private sector. And we have an opportunity to really impact on public sector and try and introduce schemes to get more people with learning disabilities and to work there. But also we have an opportunity to give incentives to people in the private sector to take on people with learning disabilities. Now, I manage a company in South Wales, and we have taken on 6 people now with learning disabilities. We've got 2 restaurants now in the south, and we have people who come in and they serve people, they wash the dishes, and all sorts of things like that. And it really gives people a chance to empower themselves, to earn some money. And I know that all of you want to go out and earn money for yourselves, and you should be you deserve the opportunity to do that. So, and all of us will be committed to represent you in that respect. So, thanks. Sorry.
I think actually that's a very good idea that Elizabeth has just raised there, because I didn't realise that in some countries they have quotas through legislation to make large employers and the public sector employ people with learning difficulties or a certain amount. And I think that that may be something that with the new legislation powers that the Assembly has, that's something that could be developed as an idea over time for us in Wales. I haven't heard it discussed much in the Assembly to date, but it's certainly something that that we could look at with the new powers. It would be good to see that kind of development, I think, through legislation.
Thank you. We do have 10 questions to get through by 1 o'clock, so can I have Paul Tucker, please?
We can save you money if you let us plan our own lives. Citizen direct support allows us to do that. Will you give us that opportunity by supporting individual budgets and direct payments?
Luke.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. As I said, what we want to see is people leading lives independently as much as possible, and that any help that is provided should be a backup, a safety net, and that everybody here should be able to lead lives independently as much as possible. So yes, I will be supporting the Citizen Direct, and we'll be doing everything that we can to ensure that that funding is available for all sorts of projects like that. We'll be trying. I mean, it's obviously very difficult at the moment, and but yes, but I'm sure that all of us will be fighting the corner on this one.
Well, yes, I agree with Luke. I think it's very important that people are empowered to run their own lives. Every individual needs to have that power, and therefore by giving powers through direct payments and control of payments, that is one important way that individuals can influence what happens in their own lives. So I fully support the principle and the use of direct payments and allowing individuals to control and to run their own lives. It's what every citizen in Wales deserves.
Finally, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Jock. Thanks. It's a fundamental part of Liberal Democrat policy to ensure that people have access to direct payments and more people have access to direct payments. The take-up in Wales is much lower than in the rest of the United Kingdom, and that's a problem which does need to be addressed. So yes, individual budgets, individual budget planning, it's the only way. It's, as I said, a massive part of our policy, and we wanted to develop that in Wales because the take-up, you know, it really needs to be encouraged. Thank you.